solidarity with Gaza. And now we're still seeing that war continue. The Israelis, it looks like, have just decided to make a decisive blow. We'll see where that takes this country and Hezbollah itself. Ali?
Matt, we'll stay close to you on this. Thank you. Matt Bradley is in Beirut. Turning now to the U.S. election, which is 38 days away. Kamala Harris is going on the offensive in an effort to close the gap between herself and Donald Trump, especially in the key swing states along the Sun Belt. The Democratic nominee has spent the past week trying to make inroads on what voters have consistently said are two of the top issues this election cycle: the economy and immigration. Earlier in the week, both candidates held events and gave speeches that were focused on their economic vision for the country, Harris continuing to flesh out her policies while Trump continued to blame her and the Biden administration for the high cost of goods. And yesterday, Harris shifted the conversation to the topic of immigration as she visited the southern border for the first time since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee. Harris traveled to a portion of the border located in Douglas, Arizona, in the Tucson sector, where she met with the Border Patrol agents and gave a speech detailing her plans while criticizing Trump for intervening in and ultimately tanking a bipartisan border reform bill in Congress earlier this year.
It was the strongest border security bill we have seen in decades. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, and it should be in effect today. But Donald Trump tanked it. He picked up the phone and called some friends in Congress and said, stop the bill. Because, you see, he prefers to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Trump was hyper-aware of Harris's visit to the border yesterday. Before she even left on her trip to Arizona, the former president was already offering prebuttals to the criticisms that she was about to make about his handling of the country's immigration problems. And since then, he sent out more than a dozen posts on social media related to Kamala Harris and the border. Still, most polls continue to demonstrate that voters think the former president has an edge over his Democratic opponent on this issue. NBC News' latest national poll showed that 54% of registered voters think that Donald Trump would do a better job securing the border, compared to 33% who think Harris would be a better leader on the issue, which is an improvement from Joe Biden's numbers from the last time NBC asked this question in January of this year, when only 22% said they thought Biden would handle immigration better, compared to 57% who chose Trump. Harris's campaign is looking to further undercut Trump's advantage on this issue by calling attention to her past work prosecuting international gangs and organized crime during her tenure as Attorney General of California. But Trump continues to use inflammatory rhetoric about immigrants. He's continuing to single out the migrant populations in specific cities and blaming them for a rise in crime, which has resulted in some pushback from within the Republican Party. After Trump repeated unfounded and unflattering stories about armed migrants taking over the city of Aurora, Colorado, its Republican mayor said he hoped the former president would visit his city so he could, quote, show him that the narrative is not accurate by any stretch of the imagination, end quote. Now, if this story about Donald Trump saying things about a place and then officials in that place saying this is just not true, if it sounds familiar to you, it's because it's straight out of the same playbook that Trump has been using from the moment that he entered the political scene. Trump's politics of grievance are central to the MAGA movement. He links immigrants and Democrats and others to the economic pain and other problems that his supporters are experiencing. He reinforces their worldview that they have been left behind, that they have been shut out of the political conversation by these groups of people. And it is incredibly effective. It's key to Trump's staying power after all these years, and the explanation as to why it will continue beyond Trump. 7 years ago, Arlie Russell Hochschild, renowned book Strangers in Their Own Land, was published shortly after Trump entered the White House. It was about the right-wing counter-reaction to the Obama era, but it also helped people to understand the factors that gave rise to the MAGA movement. For her latest book, Stolen Pride, Loss, Shame, and the Rise of the Right, she spent time in the town of Pikeville, located in Kentucky's 5th Congressional District. It's one of the whitest and poorest districts in the nation, and it remains a Trump stronghold. In the first chapter of Stolen Pride, Hochschild explains why she pursued this project. Quote, I took with me to Pikeville a deep interest in the emotions underlying politics, and in particular, the emotions of pride and shame. If a leader appeals to a follower, it's usually emotion to which he or she appeals. Emotion is not a casual add-on to the cognitive talk of policies we think of as politics. On the contrary, politics can be the platter on which emotions are delivered. And to understand politicized emotion, we need to understand what people have gone through and care about, end quote. Joining me now is Arlie Russell Hochschild, Professor Emerita of Sociology at the University of California, Berkeley, best-selling author of many books, including the brand new book, Stolen Pride, Loss, Shame, and the Rise of the Right, and, of course, the aforementioned Strangers in Their Own Land, Anger in Mourning, and Mourning on the American Right. Arlie, great to see you. Thank you for being with us again.
Great to see you, Allie. Yeah.
This is what you do. The rest of us talk about these things. You go and immerse yourself in what people are thinking that leads them to act as political beings a certain way. You actually believe that that degree of empathy is key to understanding the problems that we've got. The rest of society is busy othering everybody. You're not doing that in your book. You didn't do it in your last book, and you're not doing it here either.
You know, Ali, exactly. And you use this word, you know, politics of grievance. And that's exactly what I'm trying to understand. You know, one guy that I talked to said, oh, Donald Trump, why, he's lightning in a jar. Well, I asked him, well, what is the lightning? How does that work? How does it strike the jar? How does this kind of right-wing charismatic authority really land on the ears of the people who are listening to him, who are mainly white and mainly male? That's who gets excited by this, and they mainly don't have BAs. So, yeah, I went to this completely whitest and second poorest area. 13% have BAs. But don't go to any stereotypes with this. And why were they going for Trump? You know, they were Roosevelt Democrats. They were Bill Clinton Democrats. And now 80% the last two elections for Trump. And what I did say, what I'm trying to do in this book is to make us bilingual. So we listen both to the rational and to the emotional, especially pride and shame. Because what I think we have here is a guy, Trump, who for personal reasons feels shamed. I think he does, harsh father. And that would be neither here nor there, except that it's taught him how to drill into the kind of shame felt by a very proud people, coal miners. You know, we kept the lights on. We won World War I, won World War II. So they have been structurally shamed. And I think he appeals to that by turning shame to blame. And I think he does it in four kinds of, he has an anti-shame ritual that he runs us through that goes like this. And it's almost every week, every day. For moment one, he says something transgressive. You know, all immigrants are poisoning the blood of America, or they're eating your pet cat or dog. Moment one, transgressive state. Moment two, the punditry shames Donald Trump for saying this outrageous thing. You can't say that. And look, America's an immigrant society. How can you say that? How can you promote a lie? Okay, so moment two, punditry shames Donald Trump. Moment three, Donald Trump becomes the victim of this shaming. He says, oh, look how hard it is. Look, they're all ganging up on me. Have they ganged up on you? Do you feel shame too? Yeah, I'll take the hit for you because they're coming after me now, but they're coming after you later. And in moment four, Donald Trump roars back at the shamers. That's cathartic for them. Yeah. And I think actually that the Democratic part of America is listening to moment one and moment two, the outrageous state of the shaming, but that the Republican part of the country is listening to moment 3 and moment 4. And that is to feel his victimhood and his revenge. And that is how shame is turned into blame, which has grown and grown and grown. The little moments, the 1, 2, 3, 4, have changed through time. The issues have changed, but that repeated ritual is working on people. And so, the Democrats need to first see that's what's going on. When it looks like he's just railing and off the rails and they are duped. No. There's a language we need to tune into and get heard so that our very good proposals could be heard.
So it becomes very natural to want to shame someone for something that they do that you think is inappropriate, wrong, racist, whatever the case is. But sounds to me, and I remember this from your last book, that your argument is that ultimately that doesn't work. So what are you supposed to do? When you hear this kind of behavior, you hear moment 1 and moment 2, what can you do better in a society where we're trying to model dialogue in politics to avoid moments 1 and 2 becoming 3 and 4?
You stop at 1. You say, that isn't success. It isn't true. It isn't acceptable. But then you say, but there are a lot of people out there in America who don't feel heard and who feel shamed. You intercept after moment 2 and you say, actually, we do hear you. You create a competing narrative in which you listen to them. And I talked to a lot of people, actually, who were high school educated poor, like one guy who said, I'm trailer trash, okay? I'm white, I'm poor, I'm not working, and I'm surrounded by drugs here. What's the difference between me and some black guy in the ghetto? We're the same. But the Democrats aren't talking to us. They don't see that. They don't talk social class. They don't talk poverty. And so he's not voting, for Kamala. He's not voting for Trump either. He feels stuck without a narrative. So what we can do is to say we see you, and actually the policies that Biden's promoting are for you. And there needs to be a new channel of communication. I think that's how we intercept this 1, 2, 3, 4.
The thing that's very similar to your last book is this concept of being able to empathize, right? And our polarized politics in this country and basically around the world work very actively against that, Arlie. It works against empathizing with people who are not on your side. We are about defeating people who are not on our side. That's a big ask, right? Asking people to get over that and say, think about this a different way is big. You think it's doable for somebody who's not you, who doesn't go and immerse yourself in these unusual places?
What I do is easy, and anybody could do it. And and the book is an invitation for us all to do this. And the people I talked to, I could actually try out these ideas on them. The very guy who said, Trump is light in a jar. I said, well, tell me about the lightning. Hey, does this 1, 2, 3 work for you? He laughed and said, yes, he added to it. So you can talk to people you really disagree with. And at this juncture in history, when non-BA white men, who are his prime target,